and welcome to the first episode here on the NNM podcast. And some of you may be familiar with us over on the YouTube channel. We've decided now's the time that we should really start doing more of an audio podcast and live up to the name. The name is the NNM podcast, so that is what we really should be doing. If you're into your score predictions, though, and you enjoy your team of the week, don't hesitate to head over to our YouTube channel and check us out, NNM podcast. But today, my name's Norfie, and I'm your host, and I'm joined today by Nathan over there. How are we doing, Nathan?
Not too bad, thank you, sir. Not too bad.
Very good, very good. And obviously, we'll kickstart things, obviously, with the international break. We've got one game left to go, which is the Denmark game for England. And so far, so good. Obviously, 2 wins out of 2. A convincing one against Wales. I know it was only a friendly, but, we won't worry about that one too much. But the Belgium game, it threw a few surprises in there. I predicted for us to kind of be on the back end of a loss. I thought Belgium had outclassed us, but we seemed to come away with 2-1. Was it luck, or do you think there was a bit of element in there to say, we performed well, we put the effort in and we deserved it in the end, or I personally think it was lucky, but each to their own.
It was very much a game of two halves. I think in the first half, Belgium, they were superb. Every time they went forward, they looked like they were going to score. And they could have really been out of sight by half time. I think we're quite fortunate. We're very fortunate to go in at half time level at 1-1, thanks to a very dubious penalty by Jordan Henderson. Some nice play acting there. Used every single ounce of experience in his drama GCSE to get that one for us. But the second half, Gareth, he tightened it up, didn't he? We're not Gareth Southgate fans, but he did tactically improve us, and we grew into the game. And we looked a threat, and in the end, we could have ended up, with more than 2. I mean, a bit of fortune about the winning goal from Mason Mount, but I think Harry Kane and Rashford both missed sitters towards the end of the game. Belgium are always going to be a threat with the players they have on the pitch, but they're ranked number 1 in the world for a reason, and we went out there and we matched them second half, and it was, it bodes well.
It does. I must admit, second half, yeah, you're right. Belgium didn't the first 20 minutes. I thought Belgium looked real quality. They were moving the ball around really slick, really quickly, and the simple triangles that they were playing around our players was getting them into real dangerous areas of the pitch. And I couldn't quite understand how a team like Belgium, they got quality players, but they weren't doing anything that was kind of out of the normal. It wasn't something that I didn't think any of our players were capable of doing. It was just simple 1-2s where Castagna and Meunier they were just getting in behind and seeming to just not having anyone within 5 or 10 yards of them, being able to look up and pick a pass up in the box. And they were rather unlucky, Belgium, to really not get the early goal before the penalty. I just thought, when I was watching Rashford, I think he's a tricky player. He's quick. He's got all the attributes to be a top player, but he just doesn't seem to want to run at players. And I cannot understand why. If you run at players have to commit. And if they're committing, you're either going to, jump past and get yourself into a good position, or you're going to create space for another player to run into. But it was a little bit robotic in that first half. The movement wasn't there. He was a little bit slow. Rashford was picking the ball up and he was kind of, taking a couple of touches and just paying it backwards. I could see a little bit of frustration in Rashford. I think he wanted someone to make the run, but that it's not as easy as doing that, is it? Someone's got to move to create space, and I think he's got to hold his hands up a little bit there. I don't think he did enough of it in the first half, running at players and creating that space. Second half, like you say, I thought we were a lot better. Probably a little bit fortunate to get the deflected goal. I think 1-1 would have probably been a good result for both sides, considering the overall play from both teams. But it's a good sign, I suppose. It's a good sign from Gareth that he's managed to turn around. But it's some real dodgy team selections, don't you think?
Oh yeah, of course there will always be dodgy teams. I don't know what Mason Mount holds over Gareth Southgate, but it seems he'll go to his deathbed and he'll still have Mason Mount in his team. It's ridiculous. I mean, for me, there's 3. I put Mason Mount in the same category as Jack Grealish and James Maddison, and for me, he's the worst of the 3.
Yeah,
I know he's a couple of years younger, and maybe he will develop into a better player than Maddison or Grealish. But right now, I think it's just there's this historical thing, isn't there, with big club bias. It's what we always say, especially if you're not a fan of a club in the top 6. It's so much easier to pick a player who plays for a top 6 club than to pick a player who plays for a Leicester and Aston Villa. But he did well. Don't worry, he did well in the second half. But I don't know. Every time I see the likes of him, Reece James come on, Eric Dyer's in there. I think are they there on merit or are they there just because they play for a Big Six club? And you got the likes of Jack Grealish sitting on the bench, Harvey Barnes sitting on the bench, who probably are on form have been far more influential for the clubs.
Yeah, you'd like to think when Madison's fit, he's ahead of Mason Mount, wouldn't you? You know, and obviously we're Leicester fans, so we're probably going to say that. But I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Jack Grealish had such a good game against Wales, you know, and I mean he was fantastic, wasn't he? You know, he
Yeah.
literally ran the game, and that we are, people wondering, what club we follow. We both follow Leicester. We're both season ticket holders, so the whole Villa Leicester rivalry is definitely there, but where international football is concerned and where England are concerned, you always want the very best of your national country. I just think, Jack Grealish, coming from us, I thought he was fantastic. He controlled the game. He did what Rashford didn't, and he ran at players. He made players commit. He got himself an assist. I think did he get no? He did. Did he take the no? It was Kieran Trippier who took the free kick for
Hmm.
Cody, wasn't it? So he got himself an assist. He played really well. I think he got man of the match at the end of the game. And okay, people will probably say, yeah, but it's only Wales, but point taken. But he deserves another shot. Did we really need Rice and Henderson in there? I know Belgium are good, but isn't it about time that we started, getting these teams, getting at them, and and stop being so scared what they can do to us, and start worrying them and kind of giving them the frighteners as to what we can do to them. Surely
No,
it's about time for that.
no, exactly. That's it. I think Gareth Southgate, it's always been a thing with him, also a defender as a player, very negative in his tactics. And I think with England going back to major tournaments where he failed to break teams down, going back to even 2010, failed to break down Algeria. In more recent years, Slovakia, Russia. It's because we don't go at teams. We always seem to have two holding midfielders and then one number 10. And it's
Mm,
absolutely bizarre. At most, you have either Henderson or Rice, and then you have Grealish and Madison, Madison Mount, Madison Foden. You have, or even a Ward Prowse. You have a forward-thinking midfielder. You have two
mm.
forward-thinking midfielders to go on the half turn and get onto the back four, drop into pockets. Because we've got some of the best wide men and probably one of the best strikers in Europe. I mean, I don't think there's many front lines better than ours. I mean, you can argue France have Kylian Mbappe, but they also have Olivier
Mm.
Giroud. And I mean, he's just a pound man Harry Kane. So there's no, I'm not. I do think we have a better front line than. I don't think there's many countries with a better front line than England. But so I think it's vital that we have people who can link up that transition. But yeah, I don't know what it is with Southgate. He seems to be very negative and always likes to go with, like you say, Henderson and Rice. Whereas for me, I'd go for Henderson, Mount, Madison, Mount, Grealish, Madison. That's the way I'd go about things.
Yeah, you need a transitional player, don't you?
Well,
I
you
think
need a
that's
couple, probably one or two. I'd happily have two.
you've kind of well, this is it. You need someone in there. You need to have the balance, and I think we can refer to our club. Our balance when we've got everyone fit is second to none. You've got Wilfred and Didi in there that breaks up the play, and he gives it to one of the others, our Tielemans or Madison. That's kind of the forward thinking players.
Hmm.
Tielemans is more of the transitional player. Drops deep, picks it up. Madison's more of his number 10. He's going to start. He'll create you the chances. England don't seem to have that sort of balance. They don't seem to. They could have that balance if they took risks, but they always seem to want to play two holding midfielders and a 10, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because unless you've got someone in there holding midfield that's got a very good, passing range and someone that's got the ability to play a forward pass, in tight areas, then okay, fair enough. But we haven't got it. Declan Rice's passing is not really anything to be desired about. Neither is Jordan Henderson's passing is probably not as bad, but I think you need someone in there that's going to come pick the ball up, run at players, make players commit, play forward passing. We've got to be a little bit more direct. I think England have been absolutely criminal of this for years. I can't remember an England side that have not looked negative and not been able to, not excited me for a while. Probably the last team was the Golden Generation. That's about the last time I can remember sitting there watching England play and think we're playing some really good football here. Even under Capello, we were dull, weren't we?
Oh yeah,
There was no spark.
we always flattered to deceive, always struggled to get things going. But we always heard about the golden generation, this idea of players putting club before country loyalties and them never really gelling as a team. I don't think that's an issue so much anymore with this current group of players. Since St George's Park was built, it seems like it's more of a
Mm.
club England sort of mentality. as opposed to a group of individuals from different clubs playing just for the same club for a few games. It really feels like England is like a Club England sort of feel. But that
Yeah,
said, we do flatter to deceive. I mean, we played Denmark. I know you mentioned we're playing Denmark later this week. I mean, in the first game against Denmark, we were hopeless. We were absolutely
no,
useless
yeah,
because there was no connection. We were so disjointed. There was no, fluid connection between the midfield and the forward line. And Harry Kane and co were absolutely isolated, had nothing on, and we looked absolutely garbage.
yeah. And Denmark haven't got a bad side either, have they? You know,
It's more
they've got
workmanlike, I think, with the Danes. I think you get very
yeah,
organised, very workmanlike. There is quality in there, but you've they are very workmanlike, but you've got to be at it. I mean, Belgium went there and swatted them aside 2-0. We go there and
yeah,
we're hanging on for a 0-0. Incredible.
yeah, yeah. No, no, I know what you're saying. It's yeah, you're right, you're right. But moving on from England, and obviously we're going to touch on a bit of a touchy subject now, a bit of a kind of, I'm getting mixed responses from this one. Fans being able to safely attend games again. Now, for me, I've seen a lot of stuff over social media, and one being I can't, I'm not sure exactly where it is. I couldn't give you the exact venue off the top of my head. But there was a performing arts show in London. That there was no social distancing. They were shoulder to shoulder. Okay, they were wearing masks. Not that that matters. Um, but there was just, yeah, there was very little kind of COVID procedures put in place there. Indoor, very much on top of each other, in the middle of a potential second wave. But we can't attend football matches. You know, where is the sense in this? Because I can't. I'm struggling to get my head around it now. I could understand it before because I thought, is football as important as as people's health? No, it's not. So I could kind of accept it, and I took it on the chin. I love going down the football, as do you, and everyone misses it. We all do. We'll all admit it. We all miss it. But you've got to accept that obviously health comes first, which is fine. But we're seeing all these images of different shows going on and different sports maybe and what have you, and people going back and enjoying themselves to a degree. Yet football fans can't go back. I
No,
just can't understand it. I can't understand it.
well, it's one of them. Like I said, I know the picture you're referring to. It's from the London Palladium in London. Obviously, a theatre indoors, very enclosed space, and there's not a lot of social
Mm.
distancing going on. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I think the EFL did pilot. I think it was 1,000 fans. We're in about 20 games or something. They piloted it and they tested it out, and I think by and large that it went well. But obviously, then we sort of fell back into a deeper stage of lockdown. They sort of took a step backwards as a country, and they stopped really progressing with that. But for me, it's criminal. You're outdoors. You got 30,000 seat stadiums. You can easily put 5,000 in there and socially distance everyone. And even at 5,000, make an immaculate difference just to the atmosphere. Even if you're watching a game on TV, just have a bit of atmosphere, and not this nonsense pre-generated background noise that they put on to try and fake an atmosphere, but a genuine crowd in there. I mean, there is ways
Mm.
around it: staggered leaving times, staggered entry times. Maybe not serving alcohol in the stadium if you're worried that might be a factor in people not following the rules or the guidance. But there are so many ways around it, and then we as season ticket holders will know we've already paid money to retain our season tickets. But I'm very surprised by now we've not seen anything concrete where fans are allowed back in. I think it's criminal. And like I said, when you see pictures on social media of other industries and how they're allowed to continue under certain circumstances, surely football is far less risk averse than some of the things that are going on, like with that picture you mentioned the other day. So I think football fans in England are certainly getting a bit fed up with this now. I mean, I think a lot of them are turning to non-league clubs at the moment because they can actually go there. So obviously, it's not part of the EFL or the Premier League, and they actually can go and support a local non-league club because the restrictions aren't as tight around the non-league game. But no, it can't go on. It can't go on forever because, like I said, there's no reason why football fans can't attend Premier League games under certain circumstances, i.e., 10% of the capacity or 15% of the capacity. It's not perfect, but it's better and it's a step in the right direction.
It is, yeah, you're right. And I feel what frustrates me the most is people, say, oh, you've got public transport, you've got people going in on trains, you've got people that'll be attending pubs before games and so on. I think people will look at that for a lot differently. I don't think people will think, oh, everything's back to normal. Let's get down the local and let's get heavy on the beers and let's have a great old jolly old day out with the lads. I think we'd like to. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's the sort of attitude people would take. I think people would respect the fact that we're being allowed to go back and just respect the fact that they are allowing us back in the stadiums. Accept it for what it is. Is it better that is it as good as what it could be? Probably not. But we'll accept the fact that we're allowed back in. So let's take it with both hands. Let's enjoy it for what it is. But the thing is, as well, let's not forget that people are still using public transport every single day to get to work, to get to go and see, to get the shopping, to go and see family. So you've still got congregating going
Hmm.
on social on public transport. You've still got people that go into pubs, regardless of whether the football's on or not. They're still going to pubs. They're still getting drunk. This curfew, if anything's made it even worse because people are all leaving the pubs at the same time. So why is football being penalised? Is it just an easy get out and a little bit, kind of saying, well, that's one thing out of the way, that could potentially flatten the curve, so we won't bring that back
Hmm.
because it's an easy option, isn't it? If they start shutting pubs and stuff, then you're going to get a backlash. Or we'll stop them going to the football. They kind of accept it, and we have done for so long. But I think now we're kind of we're in a bit of a dangerous area, aren't we? Because the smaller clubs, League Two and maybe even League One, and I know even some of the bigger clubs have suffered, haven't they, financially from fans not being in the stadiums. These smaller clubs now are really starting to see repercussions from not getting fans in the stadiums. I think you're going to see a lot of clubs go under, which I hate to say it because you don't want to see any club go under. But if it carries on, these clubs rely heavily on fans coming into these stadiums. But if there's no one coming in, there's no one buying food, there's no one buying drinks. It's dangerous territory, isn't it,
Oh yeah, of
for these
course.
smaller clubs?
No, of course it is, and I know it's quite hard when you hear, chairman of lower league clubs and the chairman of the EFL coming out and saying, "Oh, we need government assistance to help, keep these clubs afloat." When in the Premier League, the amount of money spent on transfer fees was 1.2 billion, and that's in English
Yeah.
football. That's all governed by the FA. So why can't they have some sort of trickle down effect where there's some sort of safety net put in place with money generated by the Premier League to help out these smaller clubs? Because let's be honest, what these clubs need to keep them ticking over for another year is pittance compared to any Premier League club. And to a lot of
Oh
Championship
yeah.
clubs, it's absolute pittance. So the idea that the Premier League clubs won't or haven't found a format they find acceptable to help out these lower league clubs, yeah, it's quite disgusting. But like I said, yeah, for some for clubs like Manchester United, it's an inconvenience not being able to have fans in the stadium. But for clubs like Grimsby Town, it's a necessity. They need to have fans
Yeah.
there. It's a bit of a different. It's not like I mean, don't get me wrong. Most of Manchester United fans don't go to the ground anyway because they're all sat in their armchairs or plastic Pete. So but no, they're the clubs you feel for because they're the ones with the uncertain futures, and it's quite ironic, really. You got clubs going out of business left, right, and centre, and you got Man United fans whining on Twitter because they won't spend 120 million pound on a teenager from Borussia Dortmund. It's just that kind of perspective in football. Or Arsenal making the mascot redundant when they're signing Thomas Partey on the same day for 45 million euro, 45 million pound. Yet they can't afford to pay someone on minimum wage. It's just football is a very warped industry, and I think the government should not be putting their hand in their pocket at all. There's enough money in the English game for it to trickle down, and for every club to be secure.
Oh,
But
absolutely. Yeah.
greed is greed, and the greed is why the clubs are at the top. They spend a lot of money. They're very rich. It's how the rich stay rich, isn't it? They don't stay rich through charity. They stay rich by being
No.
hard nosed business people. But no, I don't think the government should be assisting the EFL clubs. I think it's down to the Premier League and the other clubs around there to formulate some kind of plan to, share what is a ridiculous wealth of riches.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, ain't it? I know people have argued and says, well, some of these clubs have worked hard to get to where they are now. I suppose you could use us as maybe as an example, and Wolves and a few others. And I kind of agree. If you work hard, you deserve to be where you are. And why should you bail out smaller clubs that have probably been mismanaged and so forth? But I think where this pandemic's concerned, there's clubs down there that have genuinely been run very, very well, but are still in danger of potentially losing a lot of money and going under. And I just think, I think there's a lot more we could do as clubs at the top. There's a lot more these players could do. You can't tell me players on 300-400 grand a week would really, really suffer if they lost 200 grand a week. If they lost 200 grand a week, would they really suffer that much? I don't think they would. I
Mm.
don't think they would at all. And that 200 grand a week, you get all your squad doing that. Okay, not everyone's going to want to lose 200 grand a week. Let's say some of them only lose 20, 30, depending on what wage they're on. Let's say they just lose an average. You know,
Mhm.
that amount, that sum of money by the end of the week, by the end of the month, if you did that across all clubs, you could help these smaller clubs out. Like you said, it's pennies to these bigger clubs, and it frustrates me no end. £400,000 a week is beyond luxury. It is
Mhm.
just absolutely mental. It is a substantial amount of money that only the very, very rich, like these footballers, will ever see in their lifetime. That sort of money, if I bet they don't even check their bank accounts.
Oh
Why
no,
would you? You don't even need to, do
too
you?
many
You
numbers
wouldn't
to
even need
read.
to.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if they lost a percentage of their wage for a short period of time, and it meant that you were going to keep the football pyramid going,
Mhm.
surely it's doable.
Yeah, you think you
I
would
just
on a humanitarian
it's
level.
it's just this greed, isn't there? There's too much
Oh, of
greed,
course.
and I know Ozil come out and said, "Oh, I'll pay for Gunnersaurus's wage." I'm sure you will, Ozil. Considering you're on
Drop in the ocean.
350 grand a week, mate.
Yeah, drop in the
Yeah,
ocean. Bit of
it
good
is poor.
publicity
It
for
is
him as
poor.
well. Bit of big publicity for him.
Gets him back on the fans' side.
Yeah.
Or on the side of the fans, should I say? After the kind of mixed bag he's been offering over there as of late. But yeah, no. As for going back into the stadiums, I just it makes perfect sense to allow even half a capacity back into the stadiums. Like you've said, you could stagger entry, you could stagger the exits, you could have you could have a steward on each entry into the concourse, allowing so many down there at a time. If you miss 5 minutes of the game to go and get yourself a sausage roll and nip to the loo, what is 5 minutes? If you in this current climate with everything going on, I don't think people would mind if they lost 5 minutes or 10 minutes because they had to jump in their time slot to go and get something to eat and nip to the loo. It's
Oh
easily
no.
managed, isn't it?
It's just a
It's
small
easily managed.
sacrifice for a greater product, isn't it? It's a small sacrifice for an overall greater product, which is obviously, I mean, watching games on the TV is all fine and good, but once you go to the games every week in, week out, and you've grown up going to games, it's nowhere near the same. It's nowhere near as good. Football without fans, it's almost like working out without no music. It's so much easier
Yeah,
when you have music 'cause it just gives you that extra bit of energy, that extra buzz, makes it more interesting. Whereas without it, it's just flat and boring, and you sometimes you'll watch a bad game of football, and sometimes the crowd can almost trick you into thinking it's a good game if the crowd are up for it, if it's a tight game, if there's a lot riding on
yeah,
it. But when there's no crowd there, there's no hiding. A shit game's a shit game. So yeah, I think
yeah.
just to round that point, I think we both agree it's just ridiculous that fans aren't back in the stadiums, and they should be very soon.
Yeah, no, I agree. And obviously, just before we kind of move on from the whole COVID and not allowed in the ground, the whole box office pay per view that Sky have proposed, or BT, or is it the Premier League? Well, the Premier League have proposed it, haven't they? What's your thoughts on that? Because I'm a
Bullshit.
Sky subscriber. Yeah,
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Just
I'm
bullshit.
a. I've got a subscription with Sky.
Mhm.
All in, including my internet and whatever else. I'll pay, well over the £100 mark, or just shy of that. And I feel I pay enough to be able to watch these games. Do I expect to be able to watch every single game? Probably not. We don't we know that we're only going to get a select few. But in this current climate with everything that's going on, do I expect to be able to watch every game for how much I pay? Yeah, I do. And I get these clubs are struggling, and that's fair enough. They need money. I just think there was a better way of approaching it. I think they could have got the clubs involved. The clubs could have used their own platform. Your money could be going direct to your club instead of to the Premier League. Because let's be honest, it goes to the Premier League. They claim it's going to the clubs, but is it? Is it really? Are you telling me Sky are going to do a box office service and see nothing out of it? Because I don't believe that for 1 minute. So yeah, I think it's a seed being planted. I think when we're back to normal, I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing the box office pay per view for your Man Uniteds, Man Cities, Liverpools, and so on. Pretty much how the boxing's set up. Which in boxing you don't mind because how often do these big fights come around? Once every 2 months maybe.
Mhm.
You could have big games on every flipping weekend. You have to pay
Oh yeah,
box
of course
office
you can.
every single weekend.
Oh no, it'd be
It's just
ludicrous. On top of your already subscription, no, it's crazy. And I think the shame is this was a time really for the Premier League to, say, you know what, we know lots of money in the game. We know there's this perception of Premier League clubs and Premier League owners, but we're going to put the fans
mm,
first. We're gonna, we're gonna just do this little tweak. You know, the clubs won't miss it. The clubs will take a hit on it. They're not gonna go
yeah,
out. They're not gonna drastically miss it. But for the fans, it makes the world of difference. But now they're trying to charge £15 a game. £15 a game on
yeah,
top of Sky subscription, on top of the BT, on top of the fact we pay to retain our season tickets. Yet they want another potential £60 a month for us to watch every single game.
yeah.
Mental.
It's poor. It's poor.
Mental.
Anyway, enough off the doom and gloom. Aston Villa, great start to the season. Made some good signings. Ross Barkley being one of them. Obviously, 3 out of 3. The impressive win over Liverpool, 7-2, which completely caught us all by shock, me and you included. And have their fans got the right to be excited? Are they moving in the right direction, or is it a little bit of a kind of a false illusion? Is it, we've all seen teams have good starts, haven't we? And then kind of peter out and
Well,
fall away, they fall from grace and end up. Someone said they're going to be fighting relegation, but you know what I mean. They don't seem to be up there all season round, do they?
no, well, cast your mind back a few months, they stayed in the Premier League by a technical error. So the fact they've walked into the new season winning 3 games out of 3 when in reality they shouldn't even be in the Premier League, they're going to be excited. Yes, they've done what they've thrown more money at it. That seems to be their mantra, doesn't it? Just throw money at it until it seems to work. But fair play to
Mm.
Villa, they have seemed to recruited well. Matty Cash, Ollie Watkins, um, Bertrand Traore, Ross Barkley coming on a loan. These are like good players who are going to improve the squad in key areas. Signing Jack Grealish on a long-term contract, probably the best piece of business they did all summer. It's just Ollie Watkins already in amongst the goals. Yeah, there is reasons to be optimistic if you're a Villa fan. I mean, optimistic within reason though. Like I said, I don't think they'll be going down this season based on how they've started, but I don't think they'll be certainly be challenging, causing any ripples in the top end of the table.
No, it's the thing is with Watkins, and I've seen it. Obviously, he had a cracking game against Liverpool. It was outstanding. But I think in these early stages of a football season, you've got to be a little bit careful that they're not getting carried away. I remember people raving about Timu Pukki last year in the first 6 or 7 games, probably 8 games. He was scoring goals. He was looking sharp. People were saying, where's this player come from? When he was at Celtic, he wasn't. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. People were rating him, and there was clubs out there saying, "Oh, we might take him off Norwich, and we'll have him at our club." Then he completely just disappeared, as did Norwich, and Norwich ended up finishing bottom and getting relegated. Okay, they didn't have the start that Villa have had this time round, but I think the point I'm trying to make here is Villa fans and anyone out there that's kind of big in Villa up at the moment just needs to give it 10 games, give it 10 or 12 games. That gives you a true reflection. Because anything can happen in these first 4 games, first 5 games. If clubs don't always have a good pre-season, they start slow. Sometimes the run of fixtures that they get are generous. They can give, So I think, yes. Do I think they'll go down? No. I think there's worse teams in the Premier League. They have strengthened in the right areas. The signings have been respectable, and I think Villa fans will be happy with that. But I don't, like you've just said, I don't think they're going to cause many ripples at the top end of the table. And I do think Villa fans just need to calm down a little bit. I know they're already talking about Europe and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. They've beaten a very poor Sheffield United side. Okay, they
Mm-hmm.
beat Liverpool 7-2,
A 10
which was a
men
complete
Sheffield
freak
United
result.
side.
Yeah, 10 men Sheffield United, and the
Yeah.
Liverpool game was a complete freak, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think we'll agree that for as Leicester fans, the Man City game was a complete freak as well. So let's not buy into these results too much because it's very early on. I'm trying to think of the other result. Who else has Villa played this year? And then they beat Palace, they beat Liverpool. I'm trying to think of the other team that they got the result against
Fulham.
off the top of my head. Fulham.
Well, it's Fulham won
There,
3-0.
there you go. So
Convincing.
they've played 2 very, very poor sides in the Premier League. And okay, the Liverpool game, credit to them. They were fantastic. There's nothing lucky about beating a side 7-2. There's no getting away from that. You thoroughly deserved it, and I'll give you all the plaudits you deserve. But the other two teams you've played, very, very poor teams. So let's not get carried away just yet. There's a long, long way to go. Long way to go. But I suppose why not kind of as a Villa fan be optimistic. There's nothing wrong with being optimistic. You want to improve on last season. I get that. Do I think Dean Smith's the man to do it? No, I don't. I've seen posts out there claiming that he's the best manager since sliced bread. He spent nearly 200 million.
Mhm.
Let's remember that he spent nearly 200 million pounds. So yeah, you let's not get carried away with Dean Smith, because yes, he's doing a good job so far, but like you've just pointed out, they stayed up by the skin of the teeth after spending nearly 120 million last season,
Mhm.
and then they've spent a further 60 to 80 million this year, I think, something along those lines.
Crazy figures.
So crazy figures, So he spent a lot of money. So you expect him to be there or thereabouts, but let's not claim he's, the next Jurgen Klopp,
I mean,
because
that's what
he's
I mean.
not.
Let's not claim he's turned the group of players who just stayed up into a group of players who are now going to be comfortable in the division. I mean, that's just down to finances, pumping money into the side, and improving the squad.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah.
have it right. Dean Smith's not done anything special other than watch his only get the checkbook out.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. They just need to kind of take a step back, and it's quite easy to get carried away. With all as football fans, if it's your club and they're winning games convincingly, and they have a great start, very easy to get carried away. Us as Leicester fans, we've been there. Ours led on to Premier League glory, so we had every right to be excited and get carried away. But we I've seen clubs that have started well, and I can think of many. Wigan under Paul Jewell, Hull under Phil Brown, all started really well, petered out, had a dismal season, and it ended up. I think Wigan obviously survived for the next 5 or 6 years, and then went down, and Hull probably survived. What was it, 2 years, and then ended up going down. So
Mhm.
it's all right having a good start. I'd even go back as far as saying Leicester under Peter Taylor. Great starts can give fans the wrong impression. You get carried away. Your expectations change, and things can go sour very, very quickly. So my point would be for Aston Villa fans is, yeah, be optimistic, enjoy the ride, but I don't think they're good enough yet to start challenging for that European spot. Not when you've got some of the quality sides that you have in the Premier League at the moment that probably haven't hit the ground running as of yet. Man City being one of them.
Mhm.
So, what would your message be to Aston Villa fans right now?
I think you'd be pleased with what you did in the summer. Be pleased with the start you've made. Remember
Mm.
where you were 3 months ago. Remember where you should be now, which is dicking around the doings with Wycombe Wanderers in the Championship. That's where you should be. Let's have it right. Be grateful for the fact you've got wealthy owners who threw money at the squad, bearing in mind there's a global pandemic coming on. Don't act like you're the big time Charlies, because you're still nowhere near the best club in the Midlands. And, just be happy with a 14th place finish, because that's about as good as it's going to get.
Yeah.
That's about it, yeah.
And that's probably, that's about it. Moving on to Everton, obviously have had a great start as well. And they are at the other end of the scale, and I think they will have a very good season. Still a little bit defensively lightweight. I don't rate Michael Keane. I
Mm-hmm.
think Seamus Coleman's coming to the end of his footballing
Mean is
career.
temperamental.
Yeah, Mina's very temperamental. I do like Luca
Luca
Dean
Digne, yeah.
Digne. I do like him. I think he's
Pickford,
probably the
no.
Pickford. No, he got
Not
too
for
many
Everton
mistakes
anyway.
again.
Yeah, every game it's for Everton. He's making a mistake, isn't it?
Yeah, too many mistakes. So again, they've strengthened in midfield. They're fantastic in midfield. The front three at the moment looks very potent.
Mm-hmm.
Richarlison seems to be chipping in. Calvert-Lewin's on absolute flames. Um, James Rodriguez, he's coming on a free. I don't know how. How have they managed to get him on a free? There's got to be a loophole in there somewhere, because I cannot understand how they've managed to bring him in on a free. That is just ludicrous. Someone of his quality. But anyway, he seems to be chipping in with the goals and assists. So they do look a force. Can they sustain it? That's the question. Can they sustain it at the top end of the table?
Um, they can sustain it in the top half and maybe push for the top six. I don't think there's any danger of them, breaking into the Champions League places anytime soon. I mean, bear in mind it's only been 3 games. No, sorry, 4 games. It's only been 4 games. Let's not go crazy. They've had a good
Yeah.
start, but that's all it is. That's all. That's literally all it is. And I fully expect them to get humbled by Liverpool at the weekend. And then what? So I find it quite funny when fans get so excited and start talking of all this nonsense after X amount of games. It's been 4 games.
Yeah.
And you got lucky in at least one of them against Palace. You were lucky to get the win because it was a handball that never was. So things have gone your way. You've ridden your luck. You've played well. You've had a nice run of fixtures. You caught Spurs on an off day at the start of the season. Let's see where we are out in 10 games time. And if you're still up there, if you're still in the top 4, still first, second, keeping pace, then maybe we can have a look and reevaluate where you are. But right now, all you've had is a good start, and that's all it is.
Yeah, and you're right. They've had a very good start, and to be fair, they've deserved it. They've played some good teams. Spurs getting the win against Spurs. Okay, they've played against some lesser sides but they've managed to get the job done. It's been a strong start. They have got a very good manager. You've got to give them that. Carlo Ancelotti, world class manager. He is starting to bring in better players. The midfield fair. Now, did Alan get injured just before the international break?
Yeah, I don't know the severity. He seems to hurt his groin, I think. I don't know the severity.
Yeah, so obviously, how long he's going to be out for, I'm not sure. But they have strengthened in midfield. And I must admit, there was a part of me that was a little bit jealous, because our side didn't, okay, overall, we've brought in 3 players and we could be happy with it. But there was a bit of jealousy from me. Everton seems to be doing a lot of deals, spending the money wisely. Bringing in players that of quality like James Rodriguez, who I'd love to have down at our place. And they seem to be, probably taking advantage of a potential slip up this year, because I think this year is going to be a freak. I think we're going to get a real freak season. Everything that's going on in the world at the moment is just absolute madness, and I think the Premier League's going to be not going to be any different. I really do think there's going to be a surprise. I do. I just think no fans in the ground. You may as well be playing training games. Because the atmosphere is just there's no atmosphere, is there? There's nothing there, so there's no atmosphere. The players aren't feeling the pressure, but I think at the same time that kind of has a little bit of a negative effect because there's no pressure there. Is there less focus? Is that why we're seeing so many goals being scored? Because players just aren't focused.
Less intensity. Players not up for it as much, not as pumped. Players not intimidated by the opposition fans, not shrinking, being braver. I think that's a combination of things why you're seeing more goals. Teams being more braver, taking more chances. I think that's that kind of vibes, the feeling I've been getting from the
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. I do think everything's playing a part, and I think not having fans is probably the main part of it all. And I think because of that, we are going to see a freak season. I really do. Will Everton manage to go on to win the Premier League? Well, I don't know. I think that's probably too early to say, and probably a little bit of an extreme shout. Is the potential of that happening? Absolutely. There's every chance that something like that could happen. Do I want it to happen? Not really, because I don't want anyone to kind of knock Leicester off their pedestal. I think we want to hold that crown for as long as we possibly can.
Oh, we will. I'm sure we will.
Yeah, I hope so. But no, like I say, as for Everton, had a great start, and that's pretty much all we've got time for. It's the first episode here on the NM podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. We will have plenty more talking points as the season goes on, and we'll hope to cover as many of the breaking news as we possibly can. But if you are familiar with our YouTube channel, don't hesitate to pop over and check out our score predictions and team of the week and a variety of everything, really. There's a bit of everything on there. So yeah, as always, it's been a pleasure, and I've been your host tonight. I'm Northie, and Nathan has been my co-host, as we should say. We are looking to bring some more guests on. So yeah, thanks for listening. It's been a pleasure, and as always, in this tough times, make sure you stay safe and take care. Thank you.